Singular and plural nouns completely explained. A singular noun is a word that names one person, one place, one thing, or one idea. Boy, apple, cat, dog, book, brick, house, tree. They are all examples of singular nouns. A boy is sitting under a tree talking to a dog. You can see that this sentence contains three singular nouns: boy, dog, and tree. Is Peter a singular noun? Yes. Since Peter addresses just a single person, it is a singular noun. But in the case of a name, it is also a proper noun. I have already uploaded a video explaining what are proper nouns. Boys, apples, cats, dogs, books, bricks, houses, trees, they are all examples of plural nouns. The girl is carrying apples in a basket. In this sentence, girl is a singular noun, apples is a plural noun, and basket is again a singular noun. The examples so far that I have used in this video are concrete nouns. In the video on concrete nouns, I explained that concrete nouns are those nouns that can be touched, smelled, seen, felt, or heard. So, are only concrete nouns singular or plural? Not necessarily. Idea is an abstract noun, but you can have ideas. So, both concrete and abstract nouns can be singular or plural. How do you turn singular nouns into plural nouns in day to day writing? Turning some singular nouns into plural nouns is easier, but in some cases it can be tricky and the general rules may not apply. Let's learn how to turn singular nouns into plural nouns. Adding s. Most common. You can turn some singular nouns into plural nouns by simply adding an s in the end, and I'm pretty sure you already know this. For example, ticket becomes tickets, apple becomes apples, dog becomes dogs, book becomes books, tree becomes trees, and cloud becomes clouds. This is the simplest way of turning singular nouns into plural nouns. Adding es. Some nouns require you to add es instead of s to make them plural. You will observe that it mostly happens with those singular nouns in which pronouncing an s would be a bit awkward and difficult. So for them, es is much better option. So bus becomes buses, box becomes boxes, brush becomes brushes, and watch becomes watches. As I said, it's much easier to pronounce es than s, with these words ending with s, x, sh, and ch. How to know when to add an s and when to add an es to turn a singular noun into a plural noun? The simple answer is that if it sounds awkward and difficult when you add just s, then you should add es. Turning singular nouns into plural nouns when the noun ends with o. I must confess that there is no hard and fast rule on how to turn this type of singular noun into plural noun. For example, photo becomes photos and piano becomes pianos, but then hero becomes heroes and potato becomes potatoes. You just need to remember them. What about singular nouns ending with y? There is a good rule that you can follow when turning singular nouns ending with y to plural nouns. If there is a consonant before y, you replace y with ies. Consonants, by the way, in English alphabet are those letters that are not vowels. Therefore, baby becomes babies, city becomes cities, lady becomes ladies, story becomes stories, puppy becomes puppies, country becomes countries, and family becomes families. For example, in lady, what is before y? It is d. D is not a vowel. On the other hand, if there is a vowel before y, you can simply add s. Therefore, boy becomes boys, toy becomes toys, key becomes keys, monkey becomes monkeys, day becomes days, and way becomes ways. Converting singular nouns to plural nouns that end with an f or fe can be tricky sometimes. There is no particular rule. You may just have to remember that roof becomes roofs, chief becomes chiefs, belief becomes beliefs, chef becomes chefs, and cliff becomes cliff. But at the same time, leaf becomes leaves, knife becomes knives, wolf becomes wolves, life becomes lives, and shelf becomes shelves. Just remember that when a simple s is not being added, f or fe is often replaced with ves. For example, elf becomes elves. There are some singular nouns that are completely changed when turned into plural nouns. There is no rule and no pattern. You just need to remember them. For example, man becomes men, woman becomes women, foot becomes feet, tooth becomes teeth, child becomes children, and person becomes people. Similarly, datum becomes data, medium becomes media, criterion becomes criteria, and phenomenon becomes phenomena. Here are some other examples of singular nouns becoming plural nouns that you just need to remember because there is no rule. Bacterium becomes bacteria, curriculum becomes curricula, stadium becomes stadia, automaton becomes automata, cactus becomes cacti, fungus becomes fungi, nucleus becomes nuclei, syllabus becomes syllabi, formula becomes formulae, antenna becomes antennae, vertebra becomes vertebrae, analysis becomes analysis, crisis becomes crisis, thesis becomes thesis, basis becomes basis, index becomes indices, appendix becomes appendices, and so on. Then there are some nouns that are the same whether they are singular or plural. For example, sheep remains sheep, deer remains deer, fish remains fish. Although these days sometimes you may also come across fishes, but that rarely happens. Aircraft remains aircraft, species remains species, and series remains series. So I hope with this video you have understood the difference between singular nouns and plural nouns and how to convert some singular nouns into plural nouns. If you think the video has given you some valuable information, please like it, subscribe to my channel, or click the bell icon so that you receive a notification whenever I upload my next video.